Is Planned Parenthood racist? Now I'm going to try to go over this without using any conjecture or throwing in any religious ideologies about why it should or shouldn't be legal for abortion, and I'm just going to go over different facts about Planned Parenthood from when it was conceived until now. Alright, so first let's start off with who endorsed Planned Parenthood to begin with. This was Margret Sanger. She is a known eugenics, and many people claim that she was a racist. Now, to me, it mostly seems like conjecture. I mean, I can find some misrepresented quotes, but she may have been racist, and I do not know for sure, because she did have a lot of board members that had an impact that were racist, and that is very important to note. And she did give a speech once at a KKK rally, which is also important to note. It was only on the women's side, and she did, in her autobiography, said that she kind of talked to them as if they were children because she represented them as being stupid, which, you know, makes sense. But was she racist? She did actually help a lot of African Americans, and she actually wanted birth control for everybody and the right for abortion for everybody. Although she did seem like she did not approve of abortion as much as she approved of birth control because she, you know, murdering children and stuff like that. But let's start off with why Margret Sanger began to do this. Margret Sanger grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters. And at the time, she was very poor. She came from a poor family, and her father did not believe in Catholicism when they grew up in an Irish neighborhood, which made her very disliked. Her father was seen as a nutball because he didn't agree with them, and she held on to this for a very long time because other people in her area that had less children had better, you know, education, and they had more money. So to her, she saw it as a problem with the poor and having too many children, and that went on for quite a while. But some of the rhetoric she used may have caused racial problems within Planned Parenthood after its conception. See, she wasn't actually alive after Roe v. Wade was passed. She did dedicate herself to this cause, and she interviewed several congressmen and tried to get them to overturn the decision that they made to make birth control and abortion illegal, which they did years before. So she tried and tried and tried, and she didn't really see the abortion becoming legalized because it happened 6 years after her death. And it is interesting to note that the Margret Sanger Award actually did go to Martin Luther King, who did not disavow the award or give any thoughts about it. But Martin Luther King did make the statement saying that abortion, he did not agree with abortion. He thought of it as destroying their youth, like destroying African American youth so they couldn't prosper with children, which is notable, and it is a possibility because while there are a lot of there's a lot of studies that suggest abortion decreased crime rates. Who's to say what would happen a few decades later? Like, it did pretty much decrease crime rates, and I'll go over that in another video, but it may have turned out differently a few decades later, and there's no way to prove or disprove this. But you can look at other governments that didn't do the same, and it did not turn out very well for them. But shortly after, this is an important thing, Planned Parenthood, shortly after Roe v. Wade became legalized and there was abortions, a lot of women, African American women, were sterilized. They did not know they were being sterilized. They just thought they were getting the operation they needed done. This wasn't just with abortion. This was done with other medical things as well. And they'd go in and they'd sterilize the women, and they wouldn't tell them, and they wouldn't find out until they were trying to rear children. So in that way, Planned Parenthood did have some racist in it, and that did impact Planned Parenthood, and that's very easy to see. But now let's look at it in modern day times. In modern day times, I don't think Planned Parenthood is racist. I mean, these people just want women to have the choice because it's very hard to continue and be successful if you have a child, because you have to put a lot of time into a child, a lot of money into a child, And some women, they want to go to college, and in this case, it may be helping people that come from minorities or from a poor background to be able to succeed by having that option. And now, while many people argue the fact like you could give the child up for adoption, if you look into foster care, they are seriously more likely to come out of foster care and become criminals than an average citizen. And this is just because of the way foster care is set up. There's way too many kids in it. They throw them all together. The education, they don't get as much education as they need. And the job opportunities just aren't there for some of them because they don't have skilled labor once they leave. So that's also very important to note, because all these people, like they just want you to have this opportunity to choose for yourself so you could move forward. But if we do take a look at it, abortion is actually more prevalent among minorities than whites. And now this may be because of this may be due to a lot of different reasons. One is that wealth may be held more by the majority than the minorities, or birth control might not be as easily accessible by minorities, and that could be because of our healthcare system in general. Because if we take a look at it, I know Latinos and African Americans get more abortions than the white counterparts, and it is an interesting thing to debate about and to try and understand how this is happening. But to say that they're just racist, that's pretty much just conjecture, because a bunch of people from both sides, believe different things. But when you see a lot of people saying this, a lot of them have ideological backgrounds. A lot of them are Catholic or Protestant, and they believe that it's a sin to have abortion. But you also got to remember, back, years and years and years ago, a lot of them also believed that birth control was a sin, which many of them still do today. So to say that this whole group is racist is a little bit ridiculous, although you can debate whether it was a racially motivated group to begin with, like if it didn't have racism in its roots. It's very possible. But eugenics, this is an important thing to understand. Eugenics does not always mean that they're claiming racial inferiority like Hitler did. It could just be the fact that you don't want to spread disease. So that's my argument of whether or not. If you agree with it, give it a thumbs up. If you disagree, give it a thumbs down. And make sure to check out my other videos. Peace.